Hey, what's up? It's your boy BobbySapphire with another Star Wars Legion video. What? I'm here with you today to talk about the Yoda BARC list that I ran at the Canto Bight Cup. I thought it was really sick how good the BARCs were. Like a bunch of people said I don't think naked BARCs are really going to do what you want them to do, but they punched above their weight all weekend, and I think this list is absolutely viable. Knowing what I know now, I would absolutely run this back for the event, albeit with some changes to the rest of the list. But the three naked BARCs I feel really, really good about. Just hitting you with a picture of my list here, painted by the wondrous Nick Bodnar of ACO TO fame. Love the BARCs, love the purple. Use these like specialists as I think that's an upgrade pack. I don't know the difference. That he did for me, in purple as a unit. He did these Z6s, my awesome Yoda, and then I really love this Cody-inspired clone commander here. The rest I got off the internet, painted. Here's the list I ran, just to jam through it really quick. Yoda with Burst, Force Push, Force Reflexes, and Vigi, Clone Commander. Padme with Vigi and the loaded E5 blaster. Quick anecdote. I got really inebriated the night before the event at the sports book and the steakhouse and the blackjack table, and didn't realize that I registered the E5 blaster version of my list, and because I was like flirting with trying it and not the situational awareness recon intel version of Padme, which would have given me a 1 point bid more. Didn't end up mattering. I won my bid every game, and the blaster was pretty good all weekend. Like I fired it a few times and it killed things from range 3. Set up like long range fire support. Not bad for Padme. I would probably have just run SA with the 13 point bid. I think that would have been the smartest move with this version of the list. But I wasn't sad about the E5 blaster, the Luda blaster. Two Z6s with 5s in the phase 1 cores. This lets me set up fire supports for my BARC speeders every single round. One from 5s and one to the Z6. If I'm not fire supporting, or it's like an early turn in the game, I'll generally bounce the 5s coordinate back to the clone commander to set up a bolster and either aim dodge for the rest of the team. Nothing really that interesting in the command cards. I guess it's no Padme cards other than diplomatic cover, which I used all weekend. Air support. I like that it can order Yoda and then do the beam shot from the clone commander. I think it can help thin out B1s or even just really I put 3 suppression out. It just does a lot of good things that early in the game, like especially if we're long range away from each other, I'm happy to just throw this out there in position for the rest of the round. And then I ran ambush because I figured there are games when Yoda is going to be in the back lines of the enemy away from Padme, and that if I ran her 1 pip, I wouldn't have or even the mechanized one, or it orders a vehicle and a trooper. I wouldn't be able to do a 1 pip with Yoda if I had already used size matters not. Like if I used that speed 3 jump to get into the back lines, I wanted to have another 1 pip to follow up with Yoda. So I just wanted the versatility. So the reason why I even played this list is because I thought I could really leverage the battle deck, which is why I have the bid. 9 activation, 10-point bid for Yoda is pretty insane. Don't see that too often. Bombing run, hostage exchange, which Yoda's really good on. Payload and breakthrough. Just really, really good for slow moving Z6 fire sports. BARC flanking. Bombing run, obviously awesome for speed 3 BARCs that can triple move. So just really, really strong. Nothing really interesting about the conditions here. Minefield over supply drop because I'm just sick of buffing the other team with supply drop. I've healed too many opposing Yodas and droids and Dooku's and stuff that I'm just not having it anymore. The deployments are really, really good for BARCs. Hemmed in, battle lines, disarray, danger close. Allows me to set up a lot of flanks with them. And then also all amazing for bombing run because they're so close for the BARCs to just drop bombs round 1. And it's also good for secret mission, which is really good with Padme when you can reveal that and even just bluff, which I did this weekend several times. All right, let's get to the rounds. We're just going to go over the rounds really quick. This shouldn't be a long video, and at the end of the video, I will show you how I would run this list back if I could do it again. So this is what I thought was the coolest table at the event, and I get to play on it first round, which was really sweet. It's a little condensed. My opponent was playing double ATST with 3 snipers, 3 shores, and 3 mortars. So 11 acts, so 2 up on me. I thought it was really cool. It wasn't the best map for the ATSTs for sure, but they could move through most of these spaces. This is like the only place it couldn't move. And yeah, I mean, hiding behind the buildings was pretty easy, but like these stairs, they're all the same building, and they all can see through down those stairs. So there is some visibility for the ATST. I'm not gonna say it's a good ATST table, that's for sure. Looking at the cards real quick, when I flip these, you know, bombing run is in the 2nd spot. I assume he's not gonna let me get that. I'm looking at disarray, and I'm sure he wants to get rid of limited visibility. That's where my head at. So I'm hoping to get either. I didn't really want to play breakthrough against the 11 act, but in retrospect, I maybe should have. I think the biggest thing for my strategy was that I wanted to not play on danger close or battle lines against the ATSTs. So I was really just figuring, okay, I can get to disarray, and then if he wants to get to hemmed in, that means he didn't ban limited viz or payload. And so the bans worked out that I banned to disarray, he banned lim viz, and then he got rid of minefield to go to clear. And that payload bombing run in the 1st and 2nd position is kind of a dream, because for someone to ban out of it, they do have to use both of their bans to get me off of payload and bombing run. And then even then, like, hostage exchange is waiting for them somewhere. So the breakthrough was certainly an option, but the disarray speeders with the 3 mortars and the 3 snipers and him having to deploy something over here meant that my Barcs would probably end up feasting. So this is a quick shot of the end game. I wish I took this for every game. I didn't really think I was going to do this, but as you can see, Padme has scored the secret mission. That kind of got moved at some point, but you can see that this is disarray, so that's the 4 range rulers in over here. So this is not the end of the game. I think this is the top of the turn 6, and she goes and more fully hides inside the garage here. And I have every unit in my deck, in my list at the top of turn 6. Yoda's on a wound and Cody's on 3 wounds. One of my Barcs is broken, but every single trooper unit of his is gone. My Barcs killed 2 snipers turn 1. There really wasn't too many places for him to hide. Like, he had hid 1 sniper behind this tall building, which my Barc easily got around in 2 moves. Got an open shot and fired. It searches to hit and rolls 4 dice. So, I mean, a sniper doesn't want to see that. And then he hid another one back here, but because of disarray, I was able to start behind this top garage on the right and come down and shoot through the garage. So he hung his sniper a little bit. I don't think he could see. I think that's one of the things that disarray speeders does, is like creates these cross lanes that you can't figure out where I'm going to go. And then he had deployed a sniper, a mortar, a shore, and an ATST in this side. So he definitely overloaded this side and converged on the middle of this game of payload. As you can probably see, I think I stopped his cart back here, and mine is within, that looks like probably going to be range 3 or range 2 at the end. But I did get the secret mission, so the cart, how far the cart had to go in disarray became kind of irrelevant. All right, this is the second table I played on, and I played against a Yoda mirror on Wookiees. And if you read anything about the event, it had this thing called dangerous terrain, which was an optional rule, thankfully. But these little smelting pits were like lava, and if you went into them, you had, every time you moved through it, you had to roll a clamber roll and take wounds. So that seemed insane and kind of unfair because I had speeders and he had Wookiees. So I don't think it was like super fair for me to be able to leverage that. And also it's just like not an official rule of the game. And I try and be I try and approach games with a competitive mindset. He was actually running a Highlander list. The Highlander rules were weird because he definitely had like multiple of the same upgrade, but it still qualified as a Highlander list. So like, I don't know what the rules were, but he told me it was a Highlander list and it was a Yoda Wookiee mirror, and that created some problems for me. I didn't want to play a Yoda hostage mirror because I thought we could do the same things, and didn't really feel like there was a way for me to leverage my list as well in a hostage exchange. So I'm looking for payload in the third slot and potentially bombing run. Not necessarily breakthrough, but I would have probably been open to it. I like any of these deployments, especially if I could put the payload hemmed in together, would be really insane. And then minefield in the first slot is interesting because most people want to just ignore the conditions, but minefield can create some serious problems, especially when my barks don't trip them. They can be hit by them, but they don't trip them. So he actually banned to danger close. I started, this is pretty easy progression because I banned hostage, like I just mentioned I wanted to. He didn't want to disarray against my speeders, which makes sense. I didn't want to really break through, and he didn't want to hemmed in. So we end up, especially because it was payload. I think he might have looked to do payload minefield, but he smartly took hemmed in out of the hemmed in payload for blue is really advantageous. Because they can start in the middle and red has to push to one side. So just going back to the table really quick, I set all my stuff up behind this top, I don't know, smelter, and he split his forces on danger close. He put his cart, Padme, and his 3 phase 1s, or he had a phase 2 and 2 phase 1s. He put them all here, and he put Yoda, his Wookiees, and Chewbacca here. So I just and this is about range 3 from the jump, and he had force lift on his Yoda, so he put a barricade down and then just moved the barricade and moved his team up, and I just tried to mulch as much as I could. I got pretty aggressive with my clone shots, and just I flanked with I set up my barks in the back because I knew they had to go fast, and I wasn't sure where he was going to set everything up, especially when he started splitting his forces. So I brought one bark through this lane to help set up fire supports into the Wookiees, and I brought the other 2 barks along this way to put pressure on Padme and his clones, and potentially stop his cart when I swung the other one around. I put Padme in this little nook here, like I moved her out. She could see through this, so she could still exemplar share, and then she sort of put pressure on a flank with her range 3 gun. So my Padme outranged his Padme, and then just taking shots from naked barks. I wasn't really sweating with Padme, not naked barks, naked clones. Even with a little Padme support, I wasn't too worried because she was going to have dodges and still be in range of the rest of the team for support. So most of the battle took place here. The mines got set up like here and here. I was able to just chew through all of the Wookiees, or most of the Wookiees, before they got into melee. He did dive in Yoda really, really early, and early in a turn too, so I was able to move my Yoda up, force push, and while it took an entire turn, and he left Chewbacca behind, I think he should have advanced maybe with Chewbacca's 2-pip and not leave Chewbacca behind, because I took an entire turn where every single thing in my list shot Yoda, and he died, but it did take every single shot. And with Chewbacca out of range, it probably shouldn't have been that difficult. And if he didn't leave Chewbacca behind, I probably would have wasted an entire turn and not even killed Yoda. Likely at the top of the next turn, but it still would have taken me a while. But yeah, it's like the Yoda mirror is tough because he dove and I played Luminous. And so I'm tanked up, and I didn't lose that much, and then I can still force push with Yoda and set up standbys to get extra shots on him. So once I mostly took out everything down in this range, I just moved my cart, and my barks kind of just continued to terrorize the phase 1s. I think he was almost tabled at the end of the game, or maybe he was. I don't exactly recall. So I'm 2-0, and I'm going up against a guy who's playing Cassian, Jyn, 4 rebel troopers with heavies, so 3, I think it was either 2 or 3 DLTs and 1 Ion, or 2 Ions, and then Pathfinders with POW and a T-47. So definitely a scary list. I really liked hemmed in for this list, just going in, like seeing the table, because of this little castle right here that I can hide in. I was a little worried about his T-47, and just that combined with Cassian, Jin, and K2 all having Pierce, and then all the heavy weapons. Like, I was just astonished at everything he could fit in his list. So I was definitely a little worried about the firepower. When we flipped the cards, it looked like it was going to be a third straight game of payload, because I didn't think he was going to let me ban to hostage, and I definitely didn't want to break through against him. Because I knew that I would really struggle to take out the T-47, and he had so many heavies and then like good shots from K2 and Cassian that I would probably get thinned out quicker than he was, just with all the Pierce. So I was happy to keep it on payload. So I went with Disarray, and he banned Hostile, and then I passed. And I know he ran into this issue, and I think many of us have in tournaments, where his previous game was such a slugfest it completely burnt out his brain, and all he was saying, like, he just won a really tight game on payload danger close and didn't want to do it again. So he left it at this, and he left in the hemmed in payload, which it's not completely unwinnable, but it does set you back pretty far. Like, if we go back to the table, like, he had to set up one of his payloads in like this area or this area, so like off to the sides for sure, and then I'm able to pick like this bone here, or this tower. So I think he smartly set up on this side so that I would have to pick this giant tower, which is huge. That's one terrain piece, so he didn't have to go as far as normal. I think that was one of the things that kind of bailed him out, was just how absolutely massive this terrain piece is. And he chose for me, I think this U-shaped thing over here. And that's another thing about Hemden, is like there's just not that many pieces that are close. This was a weird table for Hemden payload because this is in his deployment zone. He probably actually should have chose that if it fit. I imagine that that's not in, but tough to say from this angle. But he ended up choosing this for the third game in a row. I divulged Padme. I set up shop behind this wall with the payload car up here, and then I pre-measured so I could make sure I could move it on top of this. And then I used this little cavern for hiding too. Like, I brought a BARC in and hid it here because he set his T-47 up over here to flank. He put his Cassian up on this and his K2 down below, and then Jin back here. And I just kind of slowly moved my clone ball out this way. I brought one BARC up here, and then I flanked with two BARCs this way. So one I brought all the way around, and one I brought on the inside. We picked off a rebel trooper unit here at some point. We shot like 1,000,000 shots into Cassian. He danger sensed everything away. Like, I must have poured 40 dice into him. I panicked him before I didn't even panic him because of Jin. I think maybe I did panic him. He had like 7-8 suppression, but Jin's courage bubble's so huge that I think maybe he just got suppressed. But I was trying to panic him because he just wouldn't die. And then I think it was the top of turn 3. I dove Yoda in with the double relentless. Killed Jin. Force pushed one of his guys like way out into the corner here. And, basically sat here with 5 dodges and nothing really threatening me. Pal and the Pathfinders were up on these stairs, but they had to move with the cart because he didn't have anything. He only had one Rebel Trooper unit and the Pathfinders on this side going with the cart, because at any time I could have just broken off with one of my speed. If he only went with one, I can just break off with like one speeder and stop his cart. So we really needed to have at least 2 there. And then after I killed Cassian and Jin, and K2 was working on trying to kill my BARCs here in the middle, along with the T-47. But when I'm able to just move my clone ball like this, it's really hard for them to get through all the Padme and Yoda token sharing. And so I think he conceded after turn 3 because my cart was already like basically touching this U shape, and Jin and Cassian were dead. All right, going to day 2, I played John Bushfax's Bushman. And obviously he went undefeated and won the event, so we know that I lose here. this table is pretty rough for me. This giant height 2 core box in the middle of the table made it so I would not be able to get any shots on anything early. And with the Wookiees, my whole game plan is to shoot them early and thin them out so they can't rip all my arms off. I'll take it to the cards real quick. So breakthrough, hostage, payload, bombing run. I didn't want to play. So basically, same deal. I didn't want to play hostage exchange against a Yoda mirror, especially against a really good player. So my plan was to put it on payload again for the 4th game, and then let him kind of choose what deployment he wanted to do that on, and thought he might even get rid of Minefield Limviz. So as I said, I banned to payload. He passed his first ban, and then realized that it's now payload hemmed in, and he didn't want that. So he had to ban to danger close. And then these are purpled out because I took the mines out, and I handed it to him, but we were doing hostage. I was like, I meant like we were putting our payload tokens down, and I was like, oh, this is the wrong token, and then never went back to mine. So we completely forgot about Minefield, and we played clear conditions, which was frustrating because I think Minefield, I can leverage Minefield again because of those speeders, especially on danger close payload where I really don't have to go into the middle. I can kind of like work my cart around on the low side and just kind of stand behind it. But c'est la vie. So with danger close, this bottom side was my long side, and I set up here. I divulged Padme again, and he did some crazy deploying. So he put one P1 like up behind this orange box, and then one Wookiee unit over here behind this barricade. And that meant, and I was walking to these. I had to bring my cart from this middle position to this barricade in the top left, and he had to bring his cart from the middle position on the other side to this snowbank. And I think this is my major mistake here because it was danger close, and this little movable tram thing was outside of range 1. I could have chosen that, and that's like a good 4 or 5 inches extra that he would have had to go. And I think that was one of the main major mistakes I made in the game. I think I made several, and of course I would never take anything away from someone who beat me or the winner and someone is highly ranked and highly skilled as John. But I made several mistakes in here that really cost me from being in this game at the end. And I think one of the best things I did was fake that Padme divulge because it made the fight 9-on-6 with 2 units being over here. But by making it so I had to go farther than he had to go, and it really let him hide behind here even longer than he had to. And I was still worried about the guidance, like moving guys up and him stopping my car early, which would have been a little insane, but he could have just like supercharged. So what I'm trying to say is if I deployed too long along this edge to try and get around this box faster, he rushes in with things, stops my car, and then he's in my back lines ripping arms off. So I kind of had to more slowly move, and that just meant he could hide behind this box longer. And what ended up happening is he had some Wookiees out. I think I killed 2 Wookiees like really fast, and he hid them back. I feigned a flank with this BARC, and I was going to move it back. He ended up moving his ranged Wookiees like all the way up on this rock to kill the 1 BARC. So that took them out of the fight too. But again, because of this giant terrain piece, I just wasn't able to shoot anything or kill anything. So the fact that like almost half of his army was way on the other side of the table didn't end up mattering, especially with all the guidancing he was doing early because he didn't have to use Yoda in any other way. He was able to move all of his units back behind the box until the final fight here at the end. And I mean, there are a lot of things that I could talk about in this game. Like he was able to use There's No Try twice. I was only able to use it once. My Yoda rolled 4 blanks on 2 swings against the Wookiees that he like could have and should have killed. Mathematically, he should have rolled 7 of 8, and they were on 6 wounds. So I could even afford to roll an extra blank. That at the end of the game, that was really, really tough on me trying to move my cart. But it really just came down to that decision to or that lack of ability to see what I could have chosen. I really feel like I had a laundry list of mistakes, but I don't want to dwell. We'll go to my left. So I'm X-1 now, and I've got to face double Magna AAT list on this board. And I don't know if you can tell. So the only LOS blocker is this middle platform. These are open underneath. There's literally nowhere for me to hide from the AAT here. So I didn't feel great about this table. I think, like, in retrospect, maybe I should have taken red, but even like this is only height 1. So even if he just like moves his AAT, he starts his AAT somewhere in this range and just moves it up, I really don't have anywhere to hide on this table at all. There's just nowhere for me to hide from it. So I had to kind of go and expect to lose basically an activation a turn and try and be aggressive. So I looks like I skipped a slide, or I didn't put the slide in beforehand. But I banned a hostage exchange because hostage exchange generally good versus droids. He banned Limviz first so that his tank could shoot at the long range, and then he banned. These are upside down because we did it from his side of the table, and then he wanted to get rid of Hemmed In. I'm not sure why. I just think because of the table would have put that big thing in the middle. Also, with hostage exchange, like, I start so close to the hostages and he starts so far away. So I just think Battle Lines was safer for him. And I didn't have anywhere to hide anybody to get to the middle, and I needed to have Yoda impact the hostage in some way. He had 2 Magnas that he started like basically as far up as he could, and they were coming for the hostage. And I had to decide when I was going to do There Is No Try. And I think I ran into this issue where instead of making the decision, I just put it off. And by then it was too late and I got screwed. I didn't get screwed. I screwed myself. I started Yoda in these rocks, which is light area terrain, with the hopes of moving him up. I wanted him to be in range 3 of 5s who was carrying the hostage. I really should have just There Is No Try turn 1. I was worried to do that because it meant that I was only going to get 1 turn of Luminous Beings if I play There Is No Try first. But I really should have had 5's Relentless Shoot on his move, like guidance him and shoot, and then move shoot, and like take out maybe 2 Magnas, or maybe kill an entire B1 squad. But he played Ambush on turn 1, which I just completely didn't see coming. Ordered the tank and fired into Yoda. He only did 2 damage, but it was enough damage. I mean, that's 40% of Yoda's life, and that's enough for me to have to hide Yoda. So instead of having the option to guidance him, to guidance 5s, I mean, I didn't even play There Was No Try, so it didn't matter. I played air support. But I didn't, because of the shot, I didn't even get to guidance him normally. And that was a huge mistake because that allowed the Magnus to catch 5s so fast on turn 2. And then because I had to hide Yoda somewhere, I put him behind this tree. Paul, my opponent, he just moved up with all his B1s through the middle and just fired into Yoda and rolled a million crits with his E5S shots. And even though I had dodges and cover, I had to make like 10 saves that turn, and lost Yoda turn 2, which was really, like, I don't know how you win a game after losing Yoda turn 2. I certainly tried. We did play all 6 turns. My Barcs killed everything this game, like killed all the B1s, except I think there was 1 B1 squad, killed his hostage, one-shot the T-Series, killed a bunch of Magnas, panicked his Magnas, so I panicked. I kept shooting them and running them over, and then kind of doing like loops here, shooting and running over to panic them and make them drop the hostage. But this AAT just came down this flank and like killed a P1 squad, the Magnus 8-5s. Padme survived a couple shots, but killed Padme. I had to move the Clone Commander up because he was my only trooper left, killed the Clone Commander. So like there just was absolutely nowhere to hide from the AAT. And it ate me. All right. One of the things I really wanted to do for this list was run it at 10x with R2D2. Oh, sorry. So I didn't play a 6 game. I had a 4-hour drive. I was X2, so I just drove home. I got home before my kids went to bed. I get to go to dinner with my buddy. So disappointed to go 3-0-0-2, but happy to get on the road and get home early and put that tournament behind me. So if I had to run it back, I would do the 10 act. As much as I loved leveraging my battle deck for the Barcs, I really felt like they were so much better than I thought that they could do more than just... They weren't only there for objectives. They were actually really, really good hunters. And I would do one of these things. So I would run it with R2 and 10x, cut the 5s. And so all I'm really doing is cutting the 5s for R2D2 and skimming off like an upgrade from Padme. So this is at 800. I'm not sure if I would run it at 800, but I would definitely, this is where I start, right? I could cut Yoda's Vigi to make it 795. I could play him a little more passive, and there's so many games where he has like 4 or 5 dodges a turn and no one shoots him anyway. So sometimes they're overkill. Now, does his vigilance dodge make that overkill? Like, is that the tipping point? Probably, but I still think it's a consideration that if you really wanted to bid, and a 5-point bid is probably fine, to that be the cut, and not cut it from Padme because she's the one who shares all the time with everybody. Could downgrade a Z6 to an RPS. That gives 2 points. I think that's a worthy consideration. I kind of liked the Z6s with the Barcs. I really like being able to move and shoot. That's pretty important on things like payload and breakthrough. You can't do that as well with the RPS. And maybe you just like RPS. So that would give you another 2 points. And you could do both down to 793, which I think if I was going to register this on Friday night, that's the one I would have registered. But after playing the tournament and knowing what I know now, I think I would just run it at 800 and just assume that between Yoda and the Barcs, I can handle any objective and kill whatever I need to kill. If I did run it at an event like that and got smashed, at least I would know. But from here on out, I'm going to test this as an 800-point list to see how bad it goes. I know this got talked about on Notorious Scoundrels, and I've talked about it in the competitive channel on TLD, that I just think that people going 800 to go 800 is not smart, that these lists shouldn't be 800, not all of them. And I know Orcus said that too. I'm not sure that this list is one of those that can't be 800. I think it might be able to be 800. I could be wrong, but I'm not ignoring the caveat that I made. I would still keep the battle deck the same, even though I'm not bidding. But yeah, this is what I would run. 10 Act Yoda. You'll love to see it. That's it. Went for 30 minutes. Not too bad. I think I was shooting for under 30, but we're at about 33. If you have any questions about the list, hit me up. You can ask in the comments. You could hit me up on Discord, BobbySapphire on the Legion Discord. And I think Barcs are really, really, naked Barcs especially, are just way better than I thought they would be. And I'm pretty impressed by them. And I'm not going to Adepticon, but I think if I were, I would be running this or maybe Yoda Annie with 3 Barcs. All right. Thanks for hanging out.